Hello, this is Allison Bonella, your Focus Life Coach, and today we're going to continue in our series on Ecclesiastes 11. We're going to tackle verse 5 today. I hope you've taken a moment and viewed the other videos 1 through 4 because everything builds on itself. Ecclesiastes 11 has a lot to say about businesses and relationships and some good advice. And verse 5 continues that good advice. So let's get right into it. Verse 5 says, "As you do not know the path of the wind, or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the works of God, the maker of all things." Well, what does that mean? What does it mean not to know the path of the wind or how the body is formed in a mother's womb? We know some things have changed with technology. Now there's a lot of instrumentation out there that gives us pretty accurate information about the wind and weather reports. And certainly with regards to what's going on in a mother's womb, we now have sonograms. But there was quite a long period of time when we could not know these things. And people had to be able to sail across oceans without the sure knowledge. And many women gave birth without the sure knowledge that maybe some sonograms might have been able to give them. So when I look at that verse, I think about the uncertainty of times and the uncertainty of not knowing things. But without knowing, we're still being asked to move forward. Mother still is going to have to give birth, even though she's not sure what's going on internally. Sailors still have to sail those seas, even though they're not sure if the wind will continue to be in their favor. There are times when you move forward. Last video, we talked about launching. First video, we talked about shipping your grain. There are times when you have to move forward and there's so much uncertainty. And we try to predict and plan and we try to make sure we have full knowledge, but the only one who has full knowledge is God. So when you are moving forward and you feel that uncertainty, note that that is part of that whole human experience. There are so many things that I've launched in my life that I really didn't know how they would turn out. Over 20 years ago, when I opened my private practice, I didn't know if it was going to be successful or not. There were many people before me who had opened private practices, and 3 or 4 years later, they were closing them up and they were moving to work with an agency. Was I going to be one of those people? I didn't know. I had to embrace that uncertainty, and I had to go with the knowledge that I had at that point at that time. And I did. Praise God, it was successful. But I want you to know that there was uncertainty. And even within the process, there was a lot of uncertainty as things shifted and things changed. When COVID-19 hit and I moved from being a face-to-face counselor and therapist and I moved to telehealth, there was a period of uncertainty there too. I had to embrace that uncertainty. And I had to know that God, the maker of all things, he knew and he understood. So it's not just embracing uncertainty with a lot of fear and trembling. It's embracing uncertainty with the idea that there is a God who knows. Hey, we'd all like for him to share that knowledge with us. I would love to sit and say, okay, God, let me pick your brain. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? Unfortunately, he doesn't allow for that. I do know that it's helped me a lot during times of uncertainty when I've sat with his word, when I've prayed, and when I've fasted. Those things could bring me closer to the heart and the mind of God in any given situation. Nevertheless, I still move forward, not with perfect knowledge, but with some uncertainty. But we do understand that God, the maker of all things, he loves us. And we apply Jeremiah 29:11, where he says, he has a plan for you, a plan for good, not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. So even as I move forward, I keep that in my mind. I'm like, God has a plan. Just because I don't have the plan and just because my plans seem so unsure and uncertain doesn't mean that there is not a plan in operation. And I'm going to trust God to keep me from falling. I'm going to trust God to keep me from failing and slipping. So I'm going to say to you today, even as you move forward in something, what is that thing that you're trying to move forward in? What is that thing that there's so much uncertainty? Have you done the preliminary work? Even the sailors, even though they didn't understand the wind, they understood some aspects of what to do. And if the wind turned, they knew how to trim their sails. The mom, even though she can't see the baby in her womb, she sees the effects of that baby. She sees the growth of, her belly, and she understands something is going on. So there is something going on. You just don't know all the details. Can you embrace that uncertainty? Can you hold back and say, okay, God, I trust you enough to not understand every detail, but I see that you're opening a way for me, so I'm going to move forward in that, trusting you. I leave that with you today to look at that verse and what does it tell you? Speak to God about it, because He is the one who makes all things, and He understands, and He'll share that understanding with you. So embrace the uncertainty, move forward with your limited knowledge, if that's what God's telling you to do. Again, this is Allison Bonilla, your Focus Life Coach. I invite you, as always, to dream big, set goals, and take action.